Early winter, 4110, year of the Tusk, Sumna. Akamian has abandoned Esmenet once again. With the passing of his student in Rayu, the sorcerer leaves Sumna a broken man. The Mandate have given him a new mission yet again, to pursue the Holy War and spy on the Scarlet Spires. The official statement is that Enrayu's death was by his own hand. Tasked with a new assignment, he leaves Sumna with more questions than before. Esmenet now finds herself alone. While she has a profound love for Akamian, deep down she desires to live a life of purpose. On a dark night, a stranger comes to Esmenet's room. She describes him as beautiful. The man assaults Esmenet and begins to ask questions about their mutual acquaintance. Before leaving, Akamian warned Esmenet that men might come to her. The schoolman warned her that no matter what, she must tell them the truth, for they likely already know much of it. The stranger says, 11 copper talents, 6 to betray your body, and 5 to betray the schoolman. The stranger couples with Esmenet, and she is astounded by the passion she feels with him. He is unlike any lover she has ever had. From the light of the pre-dawn sun, she notices black seed upon her bed and hears the soft fluttering of wings. Esmenet knows that Akamian is in danger. She makes the decision to leave Sumna to find him. For the first time in many years, Esmenet now has a purpose. Setting out from Sumna, Akamian travels the road to Momum. He is to follow the Holy War and spy on the Scarlet Spires yet again. Enrayu was the only agent that would have allowed the Mandate access to the inner workings of the 1,000 temples. Along the way to Momum, Akamian grieves the death of his former student. He wonders if perhaps the boy took his own life, torn between his loyalty to his former teacher and to the loyalty of the 1,000 temples. He also grieves the fact that he abandoned Esmenet again. Over the years, their relationship has developed into more than just physical affection. Akamian misses her, and he feels alone. The schoolman begins to write down notes concerning the great factions, hoping to connect the dots and find out what is really happening. He knows that somehow these things are all connected, and he compiles a list: Maithanet, the Holy War, Shimei, the Shisharam, the Scarlet Spires, the Emperor, the Consult, Enrayu. Akamian suspects that Maithanet is somehow at the heart of this mystery. To the map, the sorcerer adds one final name: Proyas. Akamian knows that his former student is one of the Shriya's confidants. Perhaps if he can reach Nursai Proyas, he can get some answers. The schoolman and his mule resume their journey south. As Esmenet travels, she is filled with elation. For too long has she dwelt, miserable in Sumna, saddened not only by the station of her life, but by the loss of her daughter as well. For the first time in years, she is filled with optimism, yet she is also plagued by the knowledge that Akamian is in danger. Esmenet has seen him waken from his devastating Mandate nightmares. She has witnessed the tremors of his hands, the relief that morning brings to him. She knows deep down that there is truth to what the Mandate attempt to prevent. Esmenet is not the only one traveling south. Many have taken up the call to arms. The road is a dangerous place for a woman, especially one of her station. A group of travelers, led by blue-skinned priests of Jukan, travel ahead of her. She takes comfort in the safety another group could provide, but as she travels in their wake, the band of her left sandal breaks. Slowly, the gap between them increases until they are eventually out of sight. Esmenet knows just how precarious her situation is. Upon the back of her left hand is a tattoo of 2 snake heads, the branding of a harlot. She does her best to keep it hidden, for the faithful despise her kind. As she trudges on, she sees a small village ahead. She stops there to find a cobbler to fix her sandal. A group of 5 boys approach. The oldest and tallest of the boys asks if Esmenet is a harlot. The children see that she is trying to hide her hand. The boy approaches and grabs her wrist to see the mark. She slaps him. The boy kneels and grabs a stone. Within seconds, the other children follow his lead, each gathering earthen projectiles at their feet. They begin to pelt Esmenet. She defends herself as best she can, striking the oldest boy on the face. Blood has now been spilt. A village elder arrives, demanding to know what is happening. He wears the vestments of a shrine priest. The boys explain to him that they were simply doing what is demanded of the faithful. The priest snatches Esmenet's hand, sees the tattoo of twisted snakes. Esmenet gathers herself and tries to walk away. Dread words are shouted from behind. Suffer not a harlot to live, for she mocks the seed of the righteous. The entire village has now gathered to see what is happening. The assembly begins to gather stones. Esmenet pleads with them, begging them to stop, for she knows that she is about to be killed. Suddenly, a shrine knight arrives. He punches the priest and puts a stop to the violence. He is the first knight commander of the shrine knights. His name is Cutius Sarcellus, the same shrine knight who was present during the death of Pato and Rayu. Ahead of Esmenet, Akamian has reached the outskirts of the Holy War. Skirting between campfires, he seeks the camp of Kryjates Zenimis, the Marshal of Atrempus. Years previous, Akamian was a tutor to the Crown Prince of Conria, Nursai Proyas. During that time, he developed a strong relationship with Zenimis. While Zenimis is a devout follower of the Enrithi faith, he soon became fast friends with Akamian. The schoolman finds the marshal sipping a bowl of wine with 3 of his officers. Akamian is withdrawn at first, self-conscious of his sorceress station. The Enrithi despise his kind, and he questions himself if this was the right decision. Only Zenkapa greets him with warmth. Erissus, being a caste noble, is disgusted by Akamian's presence. He insults the schoolman, which angers Zenimis. Soon the tempers subside, and the men share wine and laughter over the crackling flames of their campfire. The next morning, Zenimis and Akamian sip tea and play a game of Benjuka, a subtle and ancient game of strategy played by caste nobility throughout the 3 seas. Zenimis tells Akamian of the news of the Vulgar Holy War, of the 100,000 souls that have perished. The pair discuss the political maneuvering of Emperor Xerius, of his ultimate goal of reconquest. He also mentions that soon, Proyas will arrive. Akamian and Proyas have a very complicated history. As a child, Proyas was tutored by Akamian in the arts, while Zenimis tutored him with the sword. The 2 men share a deep love of the young aristocrat, as well as concerns over his religious fanaticism inspired by the Shrine of the Thousand Temples, Mathanet. Proyas has no idea what he is walking into when he arrives to Momum. The Emperor continues to pull the strings, insisting that victory can only be achieved if his nephew, Confus, be elected as the Exalt General. Prince Nursai Proyas of Conria has traveled long and far to reach the beaches of Nansir. The voyage on the seas of the Menianar was one of many perils. He is now the last of the great Enrithi lords to arrive. Proyas is a pious man, and upon reaching the sands, his eyes fill with tears. He is overcome with emotion, and offers up a prayer to the prophet, Inri Segenis. Soon, Zenimis arrives to greet him. Zenimis tells his lord that Kelmemunis has died, and shares the catastrophic news of the Vulgar Holy War's demise. Proyas immediately suspects that the emperor had something to do with the massacre. Just then, Ikirai Confus arrives on the beach to greet Proyas. The 2 share an immediate dislike of each other. Confus invites Proyas to a meeting with the emperor and reminds him that in order for the Holy War to be successful, they need House Ikirai. Proyas feels as if Confus has bested him. On his way to his camp, Zenimis tells his lord of one last thing. His former teacher, Akamian, is there and wants to speak with him. Still depressed by the death of Inreyu, Akamian begins to drown his sorrows with drugs and alcohol. Xinemis informs him that Proyas has refused to see him. There is a fracture in the relationship between Akamian and Proyas. Proyas's piety makes trafficking with sinful sorcerers unseemly. Proyas feels guilt over the affection he still secretly harbors for his old teacher, but his faith must always come first. Hoping to distract himself, Akamian goes to the market the next day. He wants to cook a nice meal for Xinemis and his men. While wandering the marketplace looking for ingredients, he discovers that he is being pursued by a man in a blue tunic. He suspects two factions. Either the Scarlet Spires have sent an agent to watch him, or the Thousand Temples have. His years of experience kick in, and he leads the would-be spy to a dark alley. He hides near some trash and prepares his sorceress cants. Time passes and nothing happens. Taking himself for a fool, Akamian leaves the alley, wondering if his paranoia has gotten the better of him. As he goes to purchase the ingredients needed to cook a meal, he spots the man in the blue tunic again. This time, Akamian is the predator, not the prey. He approaches the man and prepares the cants of compulsion, an incantation that controls the movements of an individual's soul. Akamian grabs the man's shoulder and turns him around, only to discover the man's face is entirely different. Confused, Akamian leaves the market, questioning his own judgment. Sarcellus has taken Esmenet into his personal company. He offers her protection, keeping her as his personal concubine. He dresses her in silks and treats her better than Esmenet thinks she deserves. She feels safe with the man. The pair discuss Akamian, and Sarcellus reminds her that mandate schoolmen are forbidden from taking wives, and that Akamian does not love her. Esmenet now feels conflicted. She thinks she might even be falling in love with her rescuer. Can Akamian truly love her? Sarcellus leaves Esmenet in his tent to think on what he has said. With the harlot out of sight, the thing called Sarcellus cackles under its breath, imagining the delectable torments it would put the woman through. Soon, its handler appears before the false knight, the consult Synthese. Sarcellus is questioned as to what the sorcerer's harlot knows. Very little, they conclude. Frustration emanates from the two artificial beings, both products of ancient technique, only ameliorated by the belief that their millennial wait will be ending soon, in glorious butchery. How I hate this world, messages the Synthese telepathically. It is such a little thing, a hollow-boned bird with a man's face, but behind it and far away is something immense. Light bleeds from the thing's eyes as it torments and pleasures its willing slave. The skin spy, calling itself Cutius Sarcellus. Elsewhere, the men of the Tusk continue to gather, singing hymns and sharing drinks, unable to contain their excitement over the righteous deeds they would soon work in the name of the latter prophet. Has there ever been such a congregation, they wonder? Is God not evidently with them? How could the heathen stand a chance before so many? Before such glory?